I'm astronaut Scott Kelly, currently spending a year in space, AMA. Hi, I'm a kindergarten teacher. My students and I have been following you since you went up last year. My past and present students are curious. What kind of things do you do for fun? I read, write, and do arithmetic like a kindergartner. Just kidding. But I do read, take photos of the Earth, and play with my food. Hello, Captain Kelly. I would like to ask, does the ISS have any particular smell? Smells vary depending on what segment you are in. Sometimes it has an antiseptic smell. Sometimes it has an odor that smells like garbage. But the smell of space when you open the hatch smells like burning metal to me. I'm Adam. I'm 5 years old. How far away are you from Earth? I'm 250 miles above the Earth and I'm going very fast. Being up in space for an entire year is a long time. Have you noticed any effects on your body from weightlessness? Are your plans for recovery once you are back on Earth more intensive than traditional programs for other astronauts who only go up for shorter time periods? Good question. Yeah, there are a lot of changes that happen. Some of them you can see, because it's your eyes. Probably too many changes to go into detail here. I think my rehab plan is the same as if I were here for 6 months, but I'm not positive. That's interesting because I didn't think the eyes would be subject to the most change. What kind of changes do they go through? Fluids in the body go to the head and affect ocular pressure, etc. They are running tests on this right now on the ISS. Watch NASA TV. Hi, Connor Kelly. I'm dad to a couple of boys who are very much into space and astronaut work. Here are their 2 astronaut questions. Peter, 7 years old. How long does it take to get used to being in space? Simon, 5 years old. Could a rogue spaceship sneak up on the space station without you being aware and dock? Peter, 302 days and counting. The longer I am here, the more normal I feel. It always seems to be getting better. Simon, maybe an alien spaceship with a cloaking device. But not your normal spaceship. No, unless it had a cloaking device, which doesn't exist. The US Air Force would see it coming. Do you really feel the change in outside pressure when getting outside during the evase? When your suit inflates more, and is it harder to move? Do you have sense of stereoscopic depth as to how far the Earth is from you? Or is it one scary and inconceivable distance? What's one question you wish people asked you, or is just an interesting fact you would like people to know? Our spacesuit when we are spacewalking has about 4 psi, about the outside pressure, so when you're in it, it's generally the same stiffness as when you're doing a spacewalk. When I look at the clouds over the Earth and I know how high clouds are, I get a sense we are really far above those clouds, so it does look like we are very high. I wouldn't call it scary, but I'm aware I'm in space. A spacewalk requires an incredible amount of mental concentration, so it's not something I think of when I'm spacewalking. Why do you always have your arms folded? Your arms don't hang by your side in space like they do on Earth, because there is no gravity. It feels awkward to have them floating in front of me. It's just more comfortable to have them folded. I don't even have them floating in my sleep. I put them in my sleeping bag. Hi Scott, thanks for doing this AMA. Could you tell us something unusual about being in space that many people don't think about? The calluses on your feet in space will eventually fall off, so the bottoms of your feet become very soft like newborn baby feet. But the top of my feet develop rough alligator skin because I used the top of my feet to get around here on space station when using foot rails. How are you doing this AMA? Are you directly typing it from a laptop on the ISS? Or is it being dictated? What do you suppose the changes are of us getting to Mars anytime soon? I'm talking to Liv, but someone else is typing this in. Depends on your definition of soon. If we wanted to devote the appropriate resources to go to Mars, we could do it. Hi Scott, it's safe to say that you're living a life many only dream of, and I thank you for taking the time to answer our questions. Wishing for your safe return upon the mission completion. Anyway, my questions are, out of all the things you've accomplished in your career, what is the one thing that you have done which you're most proud of? What are some of your favorite things to do in zero gravity? And finally, during a spacewalk, what does it feel like having nothing but a suit, albeit a rather sophisticated one, between you and space? Thanks once again. This mission isn't easy, so I think when I complete this mission, it will be up there, definitely. Sleeping, taking pictures of the Earth, and getting to the end of a satisfying day of work. It's a little bit surreal to know that you are in your own little spaceship, and a few inches from you is instant death. Happy 302 days in space, and thank you for doing this AMA from space. So cool. I have two main questions. First question inspired by The Martian, and character mark whatness mission length. Upon completing your 1 year in space, if the offer was on the table, would you do a 2-year space mission in the future, and why? Would it depend on the mission, Moon, Mars, ISS again? Can you describe your sleep cycle over the last 300 days in space? Always a solid 8 hours? Did you ever get strangely tired, or have you consistently felt well rested? Bonus question. When sleeping, is your dream world mostly in zero-G? It would definitely depend on the mission. If it was to the Moon or Mars, yeah, I would do it. I'm not a great sleeper. I don't think I have ever slept 8 hours straight in the last 20 years. I've ended up waking up a couple of times. My dreams are sometimes space dreams, and sometimes Earth dreams, and they are crazy. What one thing will you forever do differently after a safe return home? I will appreciate nature more. What do you think is the biggest misconception that people have about astronauts? That they were always the smartest kid in the class, and I was not. What's it like to sleep in zero-G? It must be great for the back. Does the humming of the machinery in the station affect your sleep at all? Sleeping here is harder in space than on the bed because the sleep position here is the same position throughout the day. You don't ever get that sense of gratifying relaxation here that you do on Earth after a long day at work. Yes, there are humming noises on station that affect my sleep, so I wear earplugs to beg. Hey up there, what does zero-G feel like on your body when you are just hanging out? Does it make your eyes open a little bit wider or anything like that? Thank you so much for your dedication to the advancement of human space exploration. It feels like there is no pressure at all on your body. Sometimes it feels like you are just hanging, but you are not hanging by anything, just hanging there. If I close my eyes, I can give myself the sensation that I am falling, which I am. I'm falling around the Earth. This is so great. How do you regulate your sleep cycles? How heavy is your spacesuit? And last, how well have you adjusted to keeping social relationship while awake? Will you have transitioning issues with this when you return home? We use Greenwich Mean Time, and we get up at 6 in the morning and go to sleep at 10 at night. It's really light up here. On Earth it weighs about 200 pounds. It's not the easiest thing, but we do have a good way to communicate. I do suspect there will be an adjustment period when I get back. Do you wear space sunscreen? On a more serious note, would you be willing to travel into deep space with current technology, given the dangers of things like cosmic rays and radiation? No space sunscreen. Our windows are protective, so you don't need sunscreen. I would want to have better radiation protection as we get further from the Earth. That's something we are working on. Did you socialize much with the Russians on the station? Does it feel like one team or more like two separate teams in different parts of the ISS? Yes, all the time. They are great friends, but sometimes it seems like we are working on two different space stations, because there are two halves. Dear astronaut Scott Kelly, my name is Victor. I loved your blooming genius. Excellent space gardening. I have many questions, but here are two. Do you stretch when you wake up in the morning from your space sleep? Is stretching just a waking up thing, or does gravity make people want to stretch? If you had a big scoop of something powdery, like if you're measuring out cinnamon or another powdered spice, would it float around in a little powdered blobby cloud, or it would disperse into the microgravity air and be all over the place? Similarly, if you tried to use a salt shaker on your NASA-approved dinner, how would the little salt pieces behave? Obviously, there is no gravity to cause them to fall into your food from the shaker. My muscles and joints are a whole lot better up here than with gravity. It's almost like you are in a bed rest. There is no pressure or pain. I do stretch before I exercise because my muscles aren't stretched out. They are somewhat dormant. It would be a disaster to have something powder like that, depending on how much it was. We would possibly consider shutting down the ventilation to stop it from spreading. For salt, we actually use liquid salt that we put on our food. Hey Captain Kelly, my girlfriend who doesn't Reddit but follows you on Instagram wants to know the answer to this very important question. What happens when you sneeze or blow your nose in space? Does it stay on your face like tears? I just sneezed twice coming into my crew quarters, and I do what I do on Earth and cover my mouth with my hand. If I didn't do that, it's possible the sneeze could be found floating in another model. I generally don't sneeze into open air on Earth or here in space. Do you ever feel alone, afraid? If so, how do you combat those feelings? I don't feel alone or afraid. I was up here for 6 weeks as the only American on the US side of the space station, and I was fine. I have been afraid when the ground has called and privatized the audio, generally meaning something bad has happened. So I have been a little afraid. CDR Kelly, from two girls who are obsessed with science projects and art. Kathleen, 7th grade. Is any of the food as good as homemade food? Erin, 4th grade. Does the moon look bigger from the space station? Me. Will you continue to practice your newfound gardening skills when you return home? Kathleen, no, absolutely not, but I guess it depends on your home. It's good enough, but not as good. Erin, no, we are not much closer. You possibly. Hi Scott, I'm a huge fan of your Instagram and your amazing pictures of our planet. My question, what is your favorite part of Earth to see from space? Also, did you get to watch the SpaceX landing? What was your reaction? My favorite spot on Earth to see from space is probably the Bahamas. The brilliant and varied colors of the blue water and contrast from here is pretty spectacular. It was in the middle of my night. I couldn't watch it right away, but I read about it online. I was very impressed and excited for all of us. Thanks a lot for watching, and don't forget to watch other videos.